All right, so the basic screen structure, we showed you a little bit of this earlier, how I set up these screens for myself. So let's go through each one of them, Dan, and look at some of the key settings that a guy needs to keep in mind for each one. So we'll start right here, we'll just go right across the top, since these are the three that we're really worried about for the sake of today's show. So we'll start with our chart, okay? So we pick our chart. Our basic chart is going to look like this. We can zoom out, there's our whole lake, you can see my waypoints, you can see the rest of the lake here, you can see the bay that we're sitting right here. Key settings that a guy needs to keep in mind for the chart on his boat.
The key thing is just what's your zoom level at.
Okay.
That's one of the things I always look at. You've got yours set so your orientation is based on your heading direction.
Right.
So you can see that yours spins around.
Right.
You can also set your your direction or the map orientation to be north up.
Right.
Or you can set it for course up. There's like 3 different things. And north up is obviously north all the time, would be at the top of the screen. Course up would be your direction of your
travel.
Direction of travel, and the heading is the direction your boat is pointing.
Okay.
And they may not necessarily be the same as your course, depending on how you're going. So that's one.
We've already talked about this a little bit, but that there are your heading extension right here and your course extension right here. So the direction the boat is pointing plus the direction the boat is moving. We've talked about that a bunch over the course of today. Under my options right here, you go to chart options. The look ahead is a key thing that I use on some of my screens. If you turn look ahead on, it's going to move the boat to one side of the screen. I've got course up. We want to say maybe have heading up. So now it's always the direction that Dan was just talking about, the direction that the boat is pointing. So if I go back to here and then I have my look ahead, you'll notice that my boat is set down below the center of the screen, and that gives me the most advanced view of what's in front of me as I'm pulling out of a place or driving my boat. So for instance, on my driving screen that we talked about, which is over here, my preset driving screen, it's set on look ahead so that as I'm driving, I can see what's farthest ahead of me. I don't care what's behind me at 50 miles an hour. I want to know where I'm coming up to, and that's one of the key things with that. What else on the chart screen? Anything else a guy needs to pay attention to? The source potentially?
Yep, the chart source will be all the different maps that are plugged into your unit. So if you've got an avionics chip, it'll let you select that. Lowrance will be whatever's built in from Lowrance. Plus these are all the maps that we've downloaded either from Lowrance, or this Horseshoe Earth is my Google Earth overlay of the lake.
And we did show them that one. Now we didn't show you guys a whole bunch of this because not everybody has this. It's not even really available to everybody from the standpoint that if your lake doesn't go up and down a lot, this doesn't help you. But the lake right now is about 25 feet higher than what this Google Earth image was generated at. So if you go over here, and you see the marinas floating out here. Well, the marina's right here. You can see that in the real world. So, but this is literally a Google Earth overlay of everywhere where, that once the water comes down a little bit, I can see what the bank looks like. And that's a very helpful thing to have. I mean, if you look at the boat ramp, we zoom in on the boat ramp right here. You can see a truck parked on the boat ramp at the low water mark. Now this circle right here is a turnaround on the boat ramp, and it is not even visible, so this is still underwater, so the water is still down here somewhere, and you can see that there's even a truck on the ramp. That's a really slick trick. You have to contact Dan directly for instructions on that.
That's PhD level stuff.
Yeah, PhD level. Okay, so anything else that a guy needs from the chart screen?
The other thing you might want to use is your cursor.
Okay.
So let's say you want to navigate to a spot.
Okay.
Let's say I want to go to, I want to drive my boat over to, where this dock is. I can put my cursor here.
Okay.
And then I can say go to, and it'll give me, unfortunately we're too close to it, yeah. But it'll give me a line, and all I got to do is follow that line, it'll take me right to that spot.
So if you're out in the lake and you keep going out and you have to go around, that line is going to adjust constantly from where the boat is to where you're going, right? So like for instance, I can't go in a straight line between here and the cove. I got to go around, but as I go around, that line is going to keep let me know my relation to that spot.
Right, and if you have something, with Lowrance and you have an avionics chip, it actually will route you around objects where some of these other ones won't.
Won't, right. Probably the most popular screen of all of them, the most basic screen of all of them, is going to be a traditional Sonar screen. And so let's start with the main menu. Here's the main menu you're going to see for your Sonar options on traditional 2D Sonar. The frequency determines how fast the signals go down, the wavelength of those signals, and they bounce back. A higher frequency, we've already talked a little bit on the show before you got in the boat, is more detail. What do I gain by going to an 83 kilohertz?
83 is going to give me a little wider signal, and so if I'm in fairly shallow water, I'm going to be able to see more to the side of the boat.
Okay.
I'll pick up more objects. The cone is going to be a little wider, so I'll be able to see more things. But what I don't see with 83 is I lose some of that resolution that you see with 200.
And chirp, any of these chirps that you see right here, guys, it's a conglomeration thereof. And so basically we'll run a sequence at different kilohertz, and that's what that's going to be all about. The bottom line is 83 and 200 are the most common ones you're going to use in freshwater. I use 200 most of the time unless I'm in real shallow water. And would you agree with that?
I agree with that.
Okay. So back from there, so let me set this back at 200 since we're here. And we'll go back to here. Now, range. What does range determine?
Range is the distance of the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen.
Okay.
Okay, so if I change my range to, let's say, 100 feet, let's do that. So we're on auto right now, so we're going to take it off of auto. Let's say we'll change it to 120 feet. I can get my finger to work on 120 feet. There we go.
There you go.
Okay, so now you'll see that the screen, my bottom is this hard yellow bottom here. Okay, so that's the bottom. Anything above this is the water column. Everything below this is actually below the bottom. Okay, so you're not actually seeing it at the bottom.
So in other words, this 150 is worthless to me when I'm only in 30 feet of water.
Exactly. Except for, we'll talk about that when we start working on sensitivity. But the range is nice if I'm fishing in, let's say that I'm fishing in, I just want to see the top part of the water column. So I'm going to go down, let's say I only want to see the top 15 feet of the water column or 20 feet.
Now you have no bottom here
no bottom.
at all. You're only seeing the top 20.
Right. So if I'm fishing for, let's say, suspended fish over 100 feet of water, I really don't care about the fish that are below 50 feet.
Right.
So I might set my range to be only 50 feet in that case.
So that I can see the most detail in that top of the water column right there.
Yep.
And most of the time, you're going to leave yours on auto unless there's some specific thing you're looking for so that it's always keeping contact with the bottom.
Generally, that's what I do.
Okay.
The other thing we'll talk about here is we talk about sensitivity. So we talk about sensitivity settings. So sensitivity is one of those things that can help you pick out more things on the bottom of the lake or something within a cloud of bait, for example. So sensitivity on most of these units these days works really well.
And it's tied. The unit will tie the two together. Sensitivity and depth range will go together. The unit will make adjustments to both at the same time.
Right, and so in some ways that's a problem because if you're going off of a steep edge, it's going to want to change the sensitivity at the same time as the depth. You may not see as much stuff, as you do that.
Gotcha.
So running it on manual can help you with that.
Gotcha.
Okay, now in order to set my sensitivity, and this is really important on certain units. Some of the older units, the auto doesn't work as well, or the cheaper units the auto does not work as well. So the way I set it is I change we're sitting in a 40-foot range, the bottom's at 35. So I'm gonna change my depth, take it off of auto, and I'm gonna set my depth for about double where we are.
Okay.
So you'll see we're 35.
Nope, you touched it.
Yeah, the cursors get me sometimes. So 35 feet here, and the bottom's at 80, so there's 70 would be double. So now I want to change my sensitivity. If I go to my sensitivity.
Here, I can do it.
Thank you. Okay, so you start turning up your sensitivity until you start to see, it's a little bit too much, a little bit at a time. You'll start to see a second echo here. So here's a line. And what that is twice the distance of the top. So the signal goes down, bounces off the bottom, comes up, bounces off the air, goes down again. So it calculates the time that it takes to make that. That's how I get my second echo. So if I start turning that up a little bit, I'll start to get a little bit of color in my second echo. When I start to see that color, that's about where I'd want my sensitivity to be, if I'm really, really looking at something underneath.
Gotcha.
So then once I've got that, then I'm gonna change my depth back to normal, back to auto.
I got a better angle on it. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so now I can see my bottom really well. See that yellow bar, and I can see these fish right in here. And I maybe have it turned up a little bit too much.
Yeah.
But the bottom is showing color. If we drive, we'll see this more if we drive over to the boat ramp. Mm-hmm. You'll actually see the second echo when you go over the boat ramp better than you'll actually see a change in thickness. Right. So I use that a lot of times for finding hardness and that sort of thing. So my sensitivity is really what I use for making those kinds of changes.
Gotcha.